Having the idea, the dream, the vision, that's the easy part. It doesn't mean anything if you don't actually honour it. And most people either remain stuck in overwhelm, procrastination, and not taking any action or doing anything at all, or the other side is people switch straight into striving, into working hard, into trying to hustle it just through their action alone, relying solely on willpower. And the truth is, neither of those options feel good. Neither of them give you that sense of fulfillment and freedom that you crave for. So I'm really excited to share an alternative path today, one that's more natural and aligned, but also brings your vision, dream, or idea into fruition through a journey, a path I like to call the Bloom Blueprint. Hi, I'm Naudia. I guide people through journeys of deep transformation to shed whatever is holding you back so that you can root back into your self-worth, feel more connected with your intuition, and start living the life that is truly calling you. And I do that through transformational coaching and also journeys through this Bloom Blueprint that I'm going to be sharing more of. And I'll be bringing to life how we can use this intentionally, especially around your vision, dream, idea, whatever it is for you, in a more intentional, aligned way. So I'm really excited. Let's dive straight in. So a little bit of context, the Bloom Blueprint offers 4 transformative phases that we see mirrored in nature through the seasons. And the invitation here is to feel into how we too are part of nature and how these cycles and seasons live within us. And when we can consciously work with them and in harmony with these phases, we too can shed and let go of anything that's holding us back and really root back into this more aligned, surrendered way of living that is in flow and ease with the life that is already calling you forward, that you're most likely already sensing, especially if you've received that idea, vision, or dream that you know is a reality in some sense, but bridging that gap or maybe doing it in a way that doesn't feel good is maybe where you're now being called to hold some space for. So the first phase always begins with surrender. And just as we see in autumn, leaves beginning to fall, things beginning to dissolve, we too are invited to hold space for what we are ready to begin letting go. So in the context of this vision, dream, and whether you're feeling stuck or maybe overworking, the invitation is to explore what is beneath that behaviour. So this is a chance to see what is at the root, what fears, limiting beliefs, old versions of you are potentially keeping you stuck in habitual ways of being, patterns that are no longer serving you and are actually feeling quite destructive. And this is not about digging for trauma, it's more so around noticing and being curious and going beneath the surface of whatever habit or behaviour you're in. It's seeing which parts of you maybe are yearning to be seen and heard, to express themselves, which parts may need soothing or reassurance or just space to see what is unfolding. And often when we get curious and hold this space, and it can feel almost counterintuitive because once we've got this idea, often we're simply moving from the mind and intellect of how to get from A to B, what's the intellectual, logical way to get there. So this can feel kind of counterintuitive, having a moment of pause, almost slowing down before we then later speed up. So it's really playing with this and noticing where there's resistance, where there may be fears around failure or success or being seen, heard, or what parts of you just want to be held in a more intentional space. So this may look and feel different for everybody, and it may just be setting the intention to explore this and see what comes up. You may already have your own practice of meditating or journaling or having your own inquiry process around things like this. And you may already have clarity on what it is, what that thing is that is keeping you stuck or getting you to work hard. And if that's the case, it's then getting curious on what we can do to begin releasing that through a lens of compassion and love, through the art of conscious completion. So seeing where there may be loose ends to tie. So this could be in the form of practical things that you may need to do to solve or close off certain habits, or it might be calling in forgiveness for parts of yourself, or maybe grieving the loss of a past version of yourself. Again, it can take the shape of many different forms. It's holding that space and seeing what's coming through. And of course, if you're already working closely with your intuition, that can too be a powerful way to guide a more personalized path to release that and let that go. And the invitation here is to also notice this through the mind and through the body. So noticing insights or maybe those aha moments that are coming up where you're seeing the dots connect, you're getting a sense of what's really at the root of all this, but also remembering to tune into what's coming up through the body. So noticing sensations, feelings, or maybe there's some movement being called to you to help support that release, that natural shedding. So the first step is really just inquiry and getting deeper into what's beneath the surface and holding that space for yourself to see how you can begin moving through that, what will support you with closing these loops, ending cycles and patterns of behaviour, because these will likely not just be impacting moving forward with this idea or vision, but potentially cropping up in many different areas of life. So sometimes when we go on this journey of letting go, we begin unraveling many themes and things that actually maybe we were avoiding or not holding the space for, and it's a chance to really kind of purge and let that all out. And this also calls for a deeper surrender. So a surrender of letting go of control, of needing to do things a linear, certain way, of kind of allowing whatever needs to move through to do so in a more natural way and not needing to rush, trusting the timing of things and having a bit of faith on this journey and in this framework. So you may also feel themes of that, not just the letting go, but really starting to surrender to this journey and this path. So from what I've said with this first phase, I invite you to already see what's resonating. Maybe some themes are already feeling they may be right for you to kind of explore, or more practically looking at how you can hold that space for yourself to just get curious, maybe do some journaling or use some journal prompts to kind of inquire deeper, or just setting that intention and seeing what unfolds. For me, I very quickly realised that it was a combination of things. There was a fear of being seen and heard, which was being masked by resistance around certain actions. But there was also a sense of feeling like I needed to work hard, which was very much linked into where I was getting my sense of worthiness from. And often when we're leaning more to that hustling, needing to do things through the action, it can be tied to our perceptions around where our worthiness comes from. So that can be a big theme to explore, and it might also be that you are having a combination of both feeling stuck and overwhelmed, but also then when you are doing action, working really hard. So notice if there are multiple parts of you at play here and what that is for you. And I have also recently done a video more specifically spotlighting this self-worth piece. So if that's resonating, I will also link that so that you can dive more deeply into that. Once we've shed and let go of all that is no longer serving, we're then invited into the second phase, which is rooting. Very much mirrored by what we see in winter, everything going underground, not much seemingly happening on the surface. And again, this may feel counterintuitive, you may feel resistance coming up just around this phase of really pausing. But the reason this is so important before rushing off into action and doing things is that we so often feel the need to be doing rather than feeling the need to actually connect more deeply what's beneath all that we've just shed, all that we've let go of, to connect back into our truth. So a lot of what we've let go of may have been illusions or things we've picked up along the way, which is normal for all of us to be doing. But when we're more conscious and aware and can shed them, it then opens up this space to see who we are beneath that, what is our truth, and how can we also feel more connected to our body, to our innate wisdom, to our intuition. And all of these will become absolutely essential for the following phases. So hopefully by the end you'll see how all of these connect. But taking a moment of pause to really root, ground into these elements, and also get curious as to where we are getting our sense of self from and our intrinsic needs met, so our sense of worthiness and where our feelings are coming from. Are we experiencing reality from the inside out and really taking care of ourselves and what we need? Are we nurturing and nourishing ourselves, having healthy boundaries, having our own cup filled first? Because when we move forward from this place, it's a completely different way of operating, and it's a way that we're not then attached to outcomes or dependent on the action that we're taking, because we're already resourcing ourselves and taking care of ourselves from the inside out. So this is such a fundamental step, and one that can bring up a lot around our sense of worthiness, but also our self-love in the way of, and I don't mean just in a kind of self-care way, but really getting to the root of all of the layers and where we are getting that sense and source from. So what we often find here is that what we've released in the first phase will potentially bring up gaps of where we could be loving self more deeply, more unconditionally, not tied to the action we are taking or what we're not doing. So this is a really beautiful moment to almost kind of reset and rebalance, so that we have that strong center and are grounded in the truth of who we really are and where we're getting our sense of self from, so that we're in a strong position then for the following phases. And I also just want to touch on here that often we're so conditioned to be operating just from the mind. So this step also brings in the invitation to really feel that connection with body, but to also notice if and when we are disassociating. As for me, this phase really brought up patterns of feeling disconnected to my body and almost numbing myself through the action and operating through the mind. So if that's the case for you, then I would also really notice that pattern and see how you can begin to consciously bring awareness back to the body and to continue coming back in, as that's also going to make it so much easier to feel into your inner wisdom and all that's going to guide you in those following steps. So this is a great time to already feel into what is resonating from this and really to get into practical ways to integrate that into your life. Often with things like this, we may think, oh, we'll do it when the conditions are perfect, when we've got a bit more time or X, Y, and Z. But really, this is the most important thing we can do, as we can only give when we have given to ourselves. And also, ironically, it's often bridging the gap between how you're maybe, or how you've been operating in the past, with how you'd be operating when you are living your dream, your vision, the idea that's coming to fruition. So although that's not the intention here, it ironically is also bridging that gap, that your way of being is really most likely going to be more in harmony with that dream vision life. So there's so many reasons to hold this space and to make it a part of your life practically, to be integrating this right now, to not be waiting but really doing it for yourself and life that is calling you. Before I go into the third phase, I just want to mention that if this is resonating and you're already feeling called to explore this further in a more supportive journey, then my Bloom Immersion is live at the moment and the doors are only open for the month of September. And this is essentially a 12-month personalised one-to-one journey through all of the phases where you're supported with all that I'm sharing right now, but in a more personalised capacity with one-to-one coaching, embodiment practices, and lots of materials and support to ensure that you really do follow through with all of these phases in the most powerful, potent way across all areas of your life. So if you do want to find out more about that, do check out the link. I'm offering free exploratory calls and also personalised proposals. So do check that out if this is calling to you. So once we have shed all that we are not, rooted and grounded back into our body, we then naturally begin feeling whispers of inspiration and intuition, usually beginning to bubble up and calling us back alive and forward. This is the third phase of Bloom, what I like to call Emerge. And it's what we see in spring when life is beginning to show up again and we are naturally called to come back into the world. But what the invitation is here is to do it from a new state of being, to really honour and integrate all that we have journeyed through in the first two phases. So to continue noticing if there's anything else coming up that needs to be released or that is showing up as resistance, so that we know what to do and don't allow that to hold us back anymore. But we're also nurturing and taking care of ourselves. And how we honour the inspiration or intuition is by beginning to then take the aligned action. But this is doing it in small steps. It's beginning to build that muscle of trusting the unfolding and the path that's moving forward, but in a way that is gentle and soothing and doesn't completely disrupt or disrail your nervous system, because you're already taking care of yourself and doing it in such an easeful, natural way. In reality, this may look like beginning to take those steps, but really focusing on that step instead of the whole journey. So we're not looking at how we're going to get from A to end of goal vision. We're not kind of fixated on that entire path. We're not even fixated on the how. We're just simply honouring and following what we're called to do. And what's so interesting in here is sometimes that thing may feel illogical. It may not even feel like it connects in with the vision, the idea, the dream. And we're going to just park that and just simply play with honouring what that is, what that nudge is. Because what we then start finding is that when we simply do that, and this really kind of simplifies the overthinking, because we're just coming back to following what we're doing, what we're called to do from a intuition, inspiration perspective, and just focusing on doing that one thing at a time, one thing at a time. And before we know it, the path begins to be orchestrated for us, and that thing that didn't make any sense actually was the perfect thing to do, or the shortcut to somewhere we couldn't have conceived of. But whilst we're doing that, we're remembering to also go inwards and take care of ourselves, so that we're naturally building up the momentum at a pace that feels aligned, as well as instead of being driven just from what we think it should be, or what the mind is dictating, or what other people around us are doing. We're just focusing on self. And often with this, it does bring up the question of trust, really be able to trust that guidance. And it is a practice of practicing having faith in the vision and dream itself, but also in your inner guidance and what you are doing. And often as we begin that, we can then build up the confidence as we see how it's always leading to our greatest and highest good, and that we can always trust that when it's coming from that right place, and we discern and can feel the difference between where it's coming from, which again is why that second step is so crucial so that we have that deeper connection with our body and that innate wisdom that we have access to. For me, this phase has often looked like showing up in ways that I once resisted, whether it's speaking and doing content like this, or writing, or just putting my ideas out in the world. And it's been a journey of really following what I was called to do despite the resistance, but using the Bloom blueprint to really release and let go of that, so that it wasn't done with sheer force or will. It was done in a way that felt quite natural and in harmony with myself. And it's led me down such a long journey of letting go of different versions of myself, from being in the corporate world and running my own startup to now doing the work that I do now. And it's an ongoing process, so the more I'm on this journey, the more bigger the vision and dream expands, and the more I'm shedding and letting go, and then the more I'm emerging and really following whatever I'm being guided to do. And it really is such a miraculous path, and one that I've now held for so many clients as well, and seen this firsthand of how transformative this can be and how much can shift when we really allow the journey to go in the direction it needs to, based on this framework. Finally, as you continue this journey of following what you're called to do, but also taking care of yourself and honouring all of the previous phases, we build into a momentum that I like to call unfold, where the path just naturally begins to expand and things begin to come into fruition all around us, as we essentially become the living embodiment of the dream, the vision, and the outer world begins to gradually mirror the inner. So this is often where we find an accumulation of all that we've been doing, both the shedding and the action, and that's all building up into results starting to come through. But because we're already embodying and living our truth, we're not attached to those results. We're not dependent on them. Our action alone isn't what's driving that. It's who we're being, who we are. I don't want to say becoming, but it's the truth that we are living because of all that we've shed, all that we are not, so that we've come back to the truth of who we are, and the action that we've been following, when it's been aligned and coming from that place of guidance, is further cementing that and cementing that shift. And this is also often where more of our expression comes through, so our creativity, our whatever it is that we're wanting to share or express with the world. And often that is also tied to the vision and the dream. And for myself, the more I've been on this journey, so much more has unfolded, and the vision has continued to grow. And it's really, this fourth phase is really a moment of celebration, of looking at all that has happened and been journeyed through, and really having a moment to feel the appreciation. And this is where we can also start appreciating each of the phases for what we can receive from them, and to embrace them more fully as we go back around, so that we're not fearful of them or needing to only remain in this fourth phase, because actually all of them serve us in some way, and they all build up and connect beautifully into this peak of summer, this blooming and flourishing that we see all around when we are in the summer season. So this Bloom blueprint isn't just a theory, it's a framework, a journey that we are already moving through, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. But when we are more conscious and aware and can use it intentionally, then the power and the potency that comes with it is incredible. It's life-changing when we can not resist going through these phases, where we're not insisting to only stay in the summer unfolding, for instance, or forcing ourselves to take action when it's not coming from the right energy or intention. When we're able to really journey through and use this to our advantage, it's a beautiful way of living in a more surrendered way, but still actualizing what it is that we've come here to do. And if you're watching this, then you're likely sensing what your idea vision is, and hopefully this path is going to support you with allowing that to happen in a more harmonious way, in a more peaceful way that is working with you and not against you. And as I mentioned, if this is resonating, do explore my Bloom Immersion, as this is my most in-depth journey through the blueprint, and it covers all areas of your life so that you can fully transform and shift into that life that's calling you. And it's completely personalized to you, to meet you where you are, and offers so much support and guidance, yet in a flexible and nourishing way, to be that container, that anchor, that shift into whatever your next era or chapter is. And this is especially for those who have already been on this journey and doing the inner work, and you're not quite getting there for whatever reason, then this can be the container, the program, the journey to support you on that. So doors are only open for this month, September, if you're watching this at the time of release. So do check out the link to find out more or book a free exploratory call. And I'm also offering free personalised proposals so that you can see how the path may come to life for you, and to feel into whether this is for you. As I always say, feel into your intuition and what resonates, as that will really serve you as to knowing whether this is or isn't for you. Thank you so much for being here and watching to the end. If this has been helpful in some way, please do share with a friend who might also find something useful from it. And of course, do subscribe to get more videos like this, and like and comment. If there's any questions or anything you want to follow up with me on, please do so as well. I really appreciate you being here, and just remember that the idea is really just a starting point, and nothing happens if we don't honour the journey and really let go of whatever is keeping us there. So do explore this for yourself if it's resonated, and let me know how you get on. Thank you again, and sending so much love and gratitude.